Hello there, my TGC students. The great conversation. The great conversation continues amidst this coronavirus update, but we have to have the conversation online using whatever resources we can to continue our learning. I sent all of you an email earlier today letting you know a couple things. One was that your second paper, which I gave you spring break to revise, is due now because we had last week as an extended spring break. So please, please, please forward a copy of your paper to me and to Michelle, the course teaching assistant, the student mentor. And if you could, please send it as an attachment in either Microsoft Word or as a PDF document. It's easier for me to open them that way. If you have to send it in Pages, I should be able to open that, but please try to avoid sending it in Google Docs. For whatever reason, I have no luck opening documents in Google Docs. So send that, and Michelle's going to give you some comments. I will give comments. I'll grade them, and I'll get them back to you. I ask that you give us a couple weeks to get through all these because we have, the whole class to look at, the papers to look at. We are now entering the third unit of the course, and this is going to be, again, a little different because I don't know how long, none of us know how long the college is going to be closed. As of right now, I think it says until April, right around Easter, I believe. Let me just look here quickly. I have my laptop handy. It says through Monday, April 13th, it's, as of now. It could be, depending on what happens with this virus, that we're going to be closed for the entire semester. We don't know yet. Either way will be, if it is closed for the entire semester, or at least until now, until April 13th, I will be coming I will be coming at you. I'll be lecturing this way on YouTube. I'll send you videos, and I'll be sending you some other information related to the topics we're going to be covering. Now, a couple things I want you to be thinking about as we head into Unit 3, okay? Third unit of the course. And Unit 3 is research. Well, sorry about that. The phone just dropped. I heard it drop. We're back up? Yes? Okay. Unit 3. Unit 3 is a research unit. Okay? We're going to be doing research. And I'll talk more about that a little bit later. But as we approach this topic, I want you to do a couple things. On the Blackboard page for our course, there's a link, and it's called Roadmap to Research. Roadmap to Research. This is something that Erica Street, who works in the library, has put together. It's an excellent resource. I think that text looks like it's coming through backwards. I don't know if it is or not on your end. Hopefully it isn't. Anyway, Roadmap to Research is a program that Erica Street from the library, who's our research guru, put together, and it's to help you through this process. Look at that. Start making your way through it. Erica is going to be, in the past, what she's done is she's come to class and done a whole presentation on various resources that are available for students when they're doing research. I don't know what's going to happen again. If we're back in session, face-to-face, I'm sure she will be here. But if not, I'm sure Erica will provide something online for students. But the first part of that whole thing is for you to access Roadmap to Research online. Be sure that you do that, okay? A few other things you're going to need. Information on the MLA method of parenthetical documentation. We're going to talk about that in another lecture, and I will get that information to you. I'll provide you with some information on that. And also, I will provide you with the, what do students call it? The prompt, right? The question, the assignment for this unit, okay? So all of that I will send your way. okay? So that's just kind of an overview of where we're going with this unit. Today I want to talk about a couple things in regards to research. Now, there's a number of different ways to do research, right? It depends on what question you're seeking to answer, and you're going to answer a question in this project. More about that later. But the type of research one may need to do varies depending on what type of research question that they're looking to answer. Historically, research was done in a library. People would go into a library, they'd go through the stacks, they'd look at periodicals, books, what have you, to unearth ideas, right? The scholarship of people who are experts in that field, what they've had to say. And students would take that information and wrestle with it. Think of the book They Say, I Say. You're going to start reading chapters from that. And in They Say, I Say, that book talks about academic writing as being a conversation. The best way to think of it is, imagine you go to a party, and there's a group of people standing around, and they're having a conversation, and you want to join in on the conversation. What do you have to do first? First thing you have to do is listen, right? You have to hear and understand what they're talking about. You're not going to just jump in and say anything, because that would be disruptive, right? If you want to contribute to the conversation because you want to add to it, or you want to argue with a particular point that's being made, or expound upon something someone's saying, no matter what it is you want to say, you have to first understand what's being said. So think of any field of study as a conversation that's been going on for decades, centuries even. And you're going to enter that conversation and give some thoughts. You're going to maybe agree with what has been said, and maybe you're going to expound upon it, or maybe you want to argue with a particular point and say that you see things different. Maybe you see things different because of the fact that you're a Christian, right? And that you're studying in a Christian college, and that your way of looking at the world of academics is a little different because you're looking at it through the lens of the gospel. Whatever it is, there's a conversation, the conversation's going on, you're going to enter it, but first you have to understand that. Now I'm going to assign you some chapters to read, and They Say, I Say, one of the course textbooks, that will help you learn to do it. The other great thing about that book is that it provides templates, right? Ready-made sort of ways of kind of presenting other ideas, whether you paraphrase or summarize or quote, and then taking off from there and giving your own ideas, your own opinions, your own thoughts. Research is about gathering the material, and as I said, traditionally it's been done in a library, right? You've gone to the library, you've found different books, and you've entered a conversation. Nowadays, a lot of students are using the internet to do research, right? There's all kinds of things online, not just scholarly articles, but databases, government studies. There's all kinds of things that you can find online. I want to caution you, though. I want to caution you that if you're doing research online, make sure the sources that you use are credible scholarly sources, that they've been vetted. When a scholar publishes something in a scholarly journal, his or her peers have looked at it. They've read it. They've provided feedback often. And then the piece has been revised before it goes into print. In other words, it's gone through a process to make sure that it meets muster, so to speak, right? That it is of the highest quality of scholarship. That's what we call a peer-reviewed journal, right? There are peer-reviewed journals in every field of study. It doesn't matter if you study history, English, biology, music, whatever you study, there are peer-reviewed journals in that field, okay? And you know that the material you read in a peer-reviewed journal has substance to it, right? It's scholarly material because it's been vetted. Not all publications are like that. Even more so on the internet, because frankly, anyone can have a website, right? You can go on to WordPress and set up a blog for next to nothing. And you can make it look as if it's the most official, prestigious website there is, and you can put all kinds of information on there. And people do that. Doesn't make it scholarly. I often tell the story about, I had a student one time write a paper, and I was examining one of the sources in that paper. I looked at the reference, and I went to the source, and I found that it was a blog that a high school student had set up. Okay? Now, with all due respect to high school students, they're not scholars in their field, right? They're not experts in their field. So you have to be careful, okay? So when you're using online resources, when you're getting information online, please be sure that it comes from a reputable source. And that may require you to do some digging, right? It may require you to look and see, is this website connected to a university? Is it a government website? Is it the website of a well-known journal, right? Whichever one, again, in your field. Where does it come from? You need to know that. Okay, the onus is on you to do the vetting, right? So nowadays, a lot of students don't just use the library, they use the internet. And now you're in the unique position where you're going to have to do a lot of work, maybe all of your work, on the internet, because libraries are closed. University libraries, public libraries, everything's closed right now because of COVID-19. So a lot of the work you're going to do is going to be online. You're going to be gathering research online. Now, of course, there are other types of research that people do. When you think of libraries and you think of the internet, you often think of textual research, right? A text, a book that someone, gets and goes through, or an article from a journal. But there's other types of research people do as well. Interviews, focus groups, questionnaires. These are all ways of doing what we like to call quantitative research. There's qualitative research, and then there's quantitative research. Quantitative research is where you dig deep in a very sort of, you've honed your topic down to a specific point and you dig deep. And sometimes that requires interviews, it requires, like I said, focus groups, all kinds of interactions with people. Now, you're limited. You might not be able to do that right now, again, because we're practicing social distance, right? We don't want to interact with too many people, so it's going to be hard. You may have to get creative. Emails, telephone calls, using social media, if your research is going to require to gather firsthand information from other people. Like, say, for example, your question had something to do with Gordon College itself, and you wanted to get some feedback from students on campus. Well, normally you could just, talk to them. You could have a clipboard, some questions, you could talk to them in Jenks or on the quad or wherever. Can't do that right now, right? So you may have to get creative. If that's where your research is going to lead you, you might have to get very creative in terms of how you gather that information. All I'm doing right now is letting you know that when it comes to research, there's different types, right? So there's textual research when you're in the library or you're online, but then there's more sort of qualitative research you would do. That would be first-hand research, surveys, questionnaires, interviews, focus groups, what have you. What type of research are you going to need to do for your project? Depends on what your project is, okay? Now, I haven't even talked about that yet. I haven't even talked about the assignment, but I will. We're going to be getting to that in the next lecture. All I'm doing right now is introducing the idea of doing research to you. Now, the other thing I want to be sure that you know and that you're aware of is that when you do research, there's information you need to write down. I can't tell you how many times, and I've done this myself, that researchers have done their research, they've compiled it, they're at home or they're in their dorm room, they're in their office, and they're writing up an article or a paper, and they forgot the publisher, or they forgot the date of publication of a particular source they're using. So they have to go back to their library or make a phone call, hoping that someone will be nice enough to get the information for them. There's nothing more frustrating than realizing that you have forgotten to write down certain information from a source. So, what kinds of things do you need to know, depending on the source you use? Well, a couple things. When you're using textual research, when you're using books, journals, and such, you want to make sure you know the author's name, the title of the article, say, or the book. If it's an article, what's the name of the journal or magazine that it came from? If it's a book, right, if you're working with a text, who's the publisher? Where was it published? The location of the publisher. Is it New York? Is it Boston? Is it London? Where's the publisher? And what's the date of publication? Okay, it might help you if it's multiple, if there are multiple editions of the text, to know the original date of publication plus the most recent date of publication. So you need to know that. You need to know the date. You need to know the publisher, the location, the author, the title of the article, the title of the book. All this information you need to have. If you're using a journal, and a journal might be published monthly, it might be published quarterly, it might be published twice a year, who knows. But normally, journals have something that are called volumes and numbers. Volume number X, and then number Y. It'll say volume and number. Those mean certain things. Typically, what that means is the volume number tells you essentially how many years, usually how many years the publication has been in print, and then the number tells you the number, which publication of that year. So for example, if it's a monthly publication and it says volume 18 and then number 3, what it probably means is that this publication has been in print 18 years, and that if it's a monthly publication, this is probably the March publication, because 3 is March, right? January, February, March, the third month. It doesn't always mean that, but you'll always find with publications that are journals that there's a volume number and a volume and then a number. Both of those numbers, you need to jot those down as well. You need to know that, okay? So keep all that information in mind. If the piece that you're writing about comes from a book, and it's a book that has, let's say someone edited the book and each chapter has a different author. That's often the case with scholarly resources. You'll find a book that a scholar has put out and each chapter was written by someone different. You need that information. You need not just the author of the article, but who's the editor, right? Or the editors of that particular book. Make sure you have that information too, okay? So this is information you're going to gather, and just make sure you have it. When you're dealing with resources that are on the internet, there's a couple other things you need to know as well, okay? You need to know the URL. That's basically the web address, right? The URL where you got this. You need to know all the other information as well, the name of the website, the author, the article, all of that. Now, two other things that are vitally important. When you find an article online, there'll often, not always, but there'll often be a date associated with the publication of that particular article. Make sure you jot that date down, okay? But also, you have to write down the date you accessed this information. So for example, if I was doing research today, and I went online and I got an article that came from, say, the New Yorker, or the Atlantic, or the Guardian, or whatever website, the article itself may have a date on it. Let's just say, hypothetically, the date was, I don't know, December 12th, 2019. Let's just say that was the date of publication. I want to know that information. However, the date that I accessed the information today, I need to write that date down too. So March 23rd, 2020. Why does it matter when I accessed it? Well, a book can't make changes to it until it comes out in a new edition. But with online resources, they can change information on a daily basis if they want to. So in other words, an article that was published on December 12th, 2019, it may be discovered that there's an error in the article, and so the online host of that article might go in and fix the error. And it could be a typographical error, it could be a factual error, who knows, right? So the date that you accessed the article, or to use the example I just did, I'm doing research today, March 23rd, the year 2020. I access an article and I get some information from it and I put it in an article of my own or a paper. And then I have a reader a month from now go to that source I used and find that the information's a little bit different. Was that my fault? Well, it would have been my fault if I wrote the information down and I was wrong in what I wrote. I didn't copy it correctly. But what could be the case is that the information changed. Doesn't always happen, but sometimes it does. What I quoted might have changed. It might have been revised by the author or the journal or whomever, right? So the date that I accessed it, on the date I accessed it, this was the information, okay? So make sure the date that you access information is there. Now I'm going to show you later on how to format all of this, okay? There's a way of formatting this in your bibliography or your works cited page. And again, we're going to be using the MLA method of parenthetical citation, of documentation. So there's a specific way that you're going to write all this out, and I'll talk about that later on. But for now, as an introduction to doing scholarly research, it's important, it's imperative that you get this information down. Also, when you're copying something, make sure it's accurate, right? Make double and triple check when you're copying something. If you're typing what you find online, or you're handwriting it on a notepad or something, a notebook. Make sure that it's accurate, that what you have is accurate. So all of this is going to come into play in this project because you are going to be gathering sources. And most of you, because of this virus, because we're being isolated, and it's probably going to get worse, there's probably going to be more and more isolation, you're going to have to do your research online. Again, I look at the screen here and it looks like my notes are backwards. I don't know how to, I got to figure out how to fix this with my iPhone. But, if you want to read this, I guess hold it up to a mirror and look at the mirror. I don't know. But this project, I'm going to be outlining the whole thing for you. I'm going to give you an assignment sheet. I'm going to give you a sheet that I have, a handout, a full handout. I'll scan it and put it online of doing parenthetical documentation. I have a wealth of resources. I've done a lot of research myself throughout my many years as a student myself, as an undergraduate, as a graduate, as a professor. As I said to you before, I'm writing and publishing all the time. So my brain is sort of in the midst of this world all the time. So I will help you. I'll provide you with the information. What you need to be doing right now is I'm going to email you actually an assignment of the chapters that I want you to read, the articles that I want you to read from. It's going to mostly be right now from They Say, I Say, and from the course reader. I'm going to send that information to you so you have it, okay? But also, again, go on to our Blackboard page, our course Blackboard page. Begin looking at Roadmap to Research. And I will send you as well the question, not the question so much, but the assignment, the prompt for where we're going in this unit. It's all about research, okay? So be thinking of that. I hope you're safe. I hope none of you or your loved ones are sick at this time. As I said in the email that I sent you today, I think this is a time where we really do need to pause, right? We need to breathe deep. We need to pray. We need to be praying for one another, for ourselves, and we need to be praying that God will deliver us through this difficult time. I am available if you need me, okay? You can call me. My cell phone number is 913-909-6591. My email address is on the syllabus, but it's John, John, Tamilio, Tamilio, at gordon.edu. So feel free to contact me anytime, and I will continue to be in touch. I'm going to be sending out videos to you like this one, resources. Nothing's going to change in terms of the information you're going to get from me. And I'm going to try to set up on Blackboard a place for us to have some dialogue, some conversations. And I may be using some other resources so we can have more face-to-face contact. My wife, who is a kindergarten teacher, as I've mentioned to you, the public schools are closed as well. Her school is using a platform, I think it's called Zoom, where they're able to have face-to-face dialogues between staff members, her and her colleagues, as well as with her students. So I'm going to look into all that. We're still in this. We're forging ahead. Make sure you send your second paper to both Michelle and to me. Again, attachment as Microsoft Word or PDF. We're going to continue with this information about research. These are the few things I've written down. Again, I think it's backwards, but like I said, hold it up to a mirror, you'll be able to see it. My thoughts and prayers with all of you. Stay safe, and the great conversation continues. God bless.